Ever wonder how a guy could turn a brand largely built on athleisure into one of the most well-known entities in the industry? That's exactly what Jerry Lerenzo has done with Fear of God. Well, essentials at least, but we'll get to that later. Jerry has managed to this point to do two things that not many streetwear brands have been able to do, and that's stand the test of time while not selling out. But how did it all start? Let's find out. I'm Nate the Great from TakeFlight214.com, and this is the history of Fear of God. But before we get started, don't forget to hit the like button for me. Liking and sharing the video helps us to continue to grow as a channel, and we can't do it without you guys' help. But with that being said, let's get to it. Jerry Lerenzo Manuel Jr. is the son of a former big league baseball player, and he grew up living and breathing baseball. Now you might think that with a dad who played pro sports, Jerry grew up rich, but surprisingly no, not so much. When he was completing his MBA at Loyola Marymount, he was working a retail job in a stockroom at Diesel store. Jerry soaked up as much knowledge as he could while there, developing an uncanny mastery of the brand's various fits. Now, this was back in the day where big brand fashion stores like Diesel and Abercrombie basically held coolness tryouts to determine who got FaceTime, so to speak, in their store. And they decided Jerry wasn't cool enough, which means he was stuck in the stockroom. After graduating, Lorenzo would turn to what he found most familiar, baseball. He handled off-the-field sponsorships and partnerships for the Los Angeles Dodgers before heading to Chicago to work for a sports management agency. In 2008, Jerry returned back to LA to manage the Dodgers star Matt Kemp by day and threw parties called JL Nights by night. The parties became popular with the celebrity scene. Lorenzo was responsible for overseeing Kemp's appearance and found that some of the garments he wanted for Kemp were hard to come by. Feeling that if he wanted something done right, he would have to do it himself, he started designing custom pieces for Matt and him. Lorenzo took the profits made from JL Nights to fund the production. The first pieces that he wanted to make in 2011 was a short sleeve hoodie with zippers on the side. He drove all around LA trying to find French terry cloth, someone who could actually make the pieces and zippers that would give the garment a luxurious look. Now, being in LA, this is the perfect place to find these things. But on the flip side, it's also the perfect place to get finessed if you don't know any better. Which is exactly what happened to Jerry on the first few runs. Guys will promise a certain type of fabric or a particular look and basically not quite come through or run off altogether with his money. Fortunately though for Jerry, JL Nights was doing pretty good, so he could afford to chalk this up as an expensive learning experience. And from there, he began working on a handful of other pieces, ones that he felt were missing from the menswear industry's collective offering. He never really liked to call himself a quote-unquote designer. After all, he's not classically trained, nor does he come from an industrial design or architecture or even art background like some of his contemporaries. To call Jerry a fixer or a fashion DJ, remixing current hits, is probably a bit more fitting. Take the elongated t-shirt that he made after the short sleeve hoodie, for example. Jerry was fond of some designers' long t-shirts, but found that the sleeves were too fitted, and Rick Owens' signature t-shirt was too drapey. So he fixed the silhouette, creating something that wasn't quite new, but different. In Lorenzo's eyes, it was more masculine and had a neckline that was a touch wider, allowing gold jewelry to show. The t-shirt became a part of the foundation of Fear of God, a name born from Lorenzo's religious background and Oswald Chambers' devotional book, My Utmost for His Highest. While the name is undeniably Christian, Jerry has been clear that Fear of God is not a Christian brand. The inspiration he took from Chambers' book came from the description of a God surrounded by darkness, something that in Lorenzo's eyes made God seem cool. And by 2012, Jerry was rounding out the rest of his inaugural collection. Being in the party scene of LA, he managed to amass a number of pretty good connections. Through his wife, Jerry managed to get a long sleeve t-shirt and a short sleeve hoodie to Big Sean, which eventually led to Kanye West seeing his work and approaching him. And at the time, Ye was in the early stages of his pivot to fashion, working on a collaboration with APC. He would offer Jerry a chance to consult on the project. This would eventually spawn into a prolific relationship that saw Jerry working on tour merch, Yeezy, and various Donda Collective projects. Now bear in mind that at this point, Fear of God didn't really exist yet, not officially. Up until now, it was basically like a passion project that he was working on. But by 2013, Jerry was basically a part of Kanye's inner circle, alongside the likes of Big Sean, Don C, Kid Cudi, and Virgil Abloh. When Fear of God officially launched in February of that year, it did so with the pieces that had been seen on Jerry's famous friends at the center, providing a perfect setup. And while Lorenzo's numerous cosigns did play a role, it was his ability to create a new pocket within which Fear of God could thrive rather than just screen printed graphics on blanks, and it all paid dividends. Now mind you, this was the era of streetwear that saw the genre move away from staples like graphic print t-shirts and snapbacks and into more cut and sew. And Fear of God had the perfect timing and the perfect product to take advantage of this. That carried over to his second collection, which released in December of 2013. And though still typically a young brand trying to find its footing, there wasn't much in the way of intricate pieces, but the collection did solidify Jerry's vision for Fear of God. Another thing that was pretty clear was Jerry's disdain for traditional fashion calendars, preferring instead to set his own pace and schedule. And as strange as it might seem to be releasing sweatsuits in May, it all seemed to work for him. Part of that was due to his then ongoing work with Kanye and APC collaboration, as well as his merchandise that he did for the Ye Yeezus tour, which saw Jerry tap into his knowledge of and passion for vintage t-shirts. Also because Fear of God was not really built for immediate mass success like that. So Jerry was still learning the ins and outs of production, working with an incredibly small team while trying to accommodate all of the increased demand. The patience eventually paid off as Fear of God really came into its own after the third collection. And by 2015, the brand not only had a distinct aesthetic, but it had pedigree with stockists like Barney's, which at the time was a huge deal. By now, Fear of God had become a major player in the fashion world, but Jerry was making moves that, in the past, had proved to be a death blow for most streetwear brands. They started selling at PacSun. They actually partnered with PacSun and created the fusion line called FOG. And after all, selling $1,000 jackets at Barney's was cool, but it was important to Jerry that there be accessible options too. Quote, "I have more family members that shop at PacSun than at Barney's, to be frank." Which is true and noble, but how would this accessibility affect the brand cachet? FOG and Fear of God were pretty similar, with an overreaching aesthetic that tied together the first PacSun exclusive drop with the fourth collection, which released nearly simultaneously in late 2015. They also got into sneakers for the first time. After teasing it for months, Fear of God finally introduced the military sneaker in June of 2016. The shoe was rumored to have taken over 100 samples to perfect, and when released, cost $1,000 retail. But only 2 months later, Fear of God unveiled a much more affordable option, in collaboration with Vans and sold exclusively at PacSun. The result was one of the most sought-after Vans silhouettes ever made, and in fact, some of them still sell for as much as $2,000 on the resale market to this day. Around this time, Jerry was also working with Justin Bieber on his merch for the Purpose Tour. And between this and the work that he did on the Yeezus stuff, it wound up revolutionizing concert merch, drafting it into the streetwear genre and leading to Bravado, a money-grubbing group of motherless Baphomet imps owned by Universal Music Group, whose sole purpose is to suck the souls and the money out of artists who previously took the proceeds from their merch, but now is being used as a tool in the infamous 360 deal to further violate musicians. Not to mention going after digital artists to siphon off money to add to their endless black pit where their heart used to be. I mean, sorry if I went off on a bit of a tangent, but as you can see, I really hate bravado for personal reasons, but that's another story for another day. Between the Purpose tour merch being sold at H&M and the PacSun Diffusion line and getting into footwear, Fear of God, the original brand, began to take a bit of a backseat in 2016, although he did release a fifth collection in 2017. But by the end of 2017, Fear of God had become a veritable force in menswear at both the luxury and mass market levels, which means Jerry had done it. He managed to beat the Babadook-like curse that befell most all streetwear brands that flirted with mass marketing. And while FOG was just basically an affordable version of Fear of God, Jerry wanted to go even further with essentials to properly segment what it was he was trying to do. The offering was different, though, could be mixed and matched with mainline garments. Essentials is exactly what the name implies. Simple pieces in primarily muted tones. Whether or not it's been acknowledged, Jerry has been one of the most influential people when it comes to streetwear's rise to luxury. For better or for worse, fans of the Fear of God look gained the nickname Jerry Boys, but the hype and the ridicule didn't really seem to hurt the brand at all. Whether you view luxury streetwear as a good thing or a bad thing, one thing is for sure. Fear of God is streetwear and Jerry is legit. One of my biggest problems with luxury streetwear is it was being made by brands that had no connection to the culture. But with Jerry, he came up in the culture and is a genuine part of it. Most importantly though, through the years and all the collabs, which started with Vans and went on to Nike and now Adidas, Jerry still works with a relatively small team of talented people and has never sold out. Many streetwear brands have come and gone, victim to changing trends and proliferation, but Fear of God seems to have cemented themselves in the game. But what do you think? Hit us up in the comment section and let us know if you're a fan of Fear of God and whether you think they're here for the long haul. And if you made it this far, then hopefully that means you enjoyed the video, and if so, then hit that like button for us. Liking and sharing each one of these videos is the best way to help us continue to grow as a channel. And if you want to be updated every time we drop a new episode, then hit the subscribe button and then the notification bell. That way you'll be dinged when a new video drops. But with that being said, I'm Nate the Great from TakeFlight214.com signing out. Until next time, peace.